over here, and welcome back to another live stream where we're doing another reading stream. I did try to do some live streaming last night, but my PlayStation was being a total asshole and would not stream for me. So I decided to read this book instead, because why the not? So, we're continuing the book of Suicide Notes. This is the penultimate part. Because this is where things are, in a way, going to come to a head. Um, there is going to be, to give you like a preview before I read this, let's just say there's going to be two particular moments in this part that are going to change Jeff's life in the program. Two particular moments in this story as a whole as well. I'm not going to say what they are and who's involved in them, but I will open up this can of root beer, A&W root beer, and we're going to get started. Yes, I'm being a cryptic motherfucker, aren't I? Alright, let's get started. Let's do this. Day 28. What happened tonight wasn't a dream. I wanted to be, but it wasn't. It really happened. And now I feel worse than I did when they took me off the happy pill that first week. A lot worse. I almost feel the way I did the night I tried to, well, do what I did. I went to bed around 11 last night. Even though things were okay between us, I was still a little freaked out about what happened with Sadie, and I just wanted to sleep for a while and forget about it. You know how things always seem worse at night and how in the morning they aren't that bad? Well, that's not always true. Not this time, anyway. I was dreaming. In my dream, I was running along a street somewhere. It was nighttime, and the moon was full. The stars were all silver and shining, and it was warm. The perfect summer night. I was just running along. Then I spread my arms, like you do when you're a kid and you're pretending to be an airplane and the wind lifted me into the sky. There I was, flying. It's not like I've never had a flying dream before, but this was different. I felt like a kite, riding the wind and watching the town below me. It looked like a miniature city, all the lights twinkling and the cars moving around like fireflies. It was totally beautiful and peaceful, and I never wanted it to end. Then something happened. It was like the dream skipped a few frames, or someone hit the pause button in my brain. In my dream, I started to fall back to earth. I woke up, and for a minute, I thought I really had fallen. I didn't know where I was or what was happening. That's when I realized that someone was in the bed with me. There was a body stretched alongside mine, and the sheets and blankets were pulled back. The moon was shining in through the window, and I could see it reflected on bare skin. Someone was touching me. There was a hand between my legs, stroking me, and I was hard. It's okay, a voice whispered in my ear. For a second I thought it was Sadie, and that this time I might be able to go through with it. But it wasn't Sadie. It was Rankin. He was in my bed, naked, and he was jacking me off. It was so totally bizarre that for a minute I was sure I was still dreaming. But I felt his skin on mine, and his hand going up and down. I could even feel his breath when he was breathing against my neck. All I could say was, "What are you doing?" "Do you like it?" Rankin asked me. Now, let's just be honest here. Jeff was in the middle of this dream. And he wakes up and this happens. Could you call this rape? Because Jeff never, in this scene, we're not being, unless otherwise stated later in the chapter, right now Jeff has not said that that, he gave consent to it. So, could we call this rape in this situation? I couldn't answer. I couldn't even move. It was like it was like I was frozen. For a minute I thought I was still dreaming, that I might wake up and be alone in my bed. I shut my eyes. Rankin stopped what he was doing and moved his hand up my belly. His fingers were rough, but they still tickled. When he rested his palm on my chest, I could feel the calluses he was from playing ball. Your heart is beating really fast, he said. He moved his head closer to me and kissed my neck. I wanted to tell him to stop. I wanted to tell him to get out of my bed and out of my room. But it was like my voice was locked in my throat. I kept swallowing, trying to break through the block that was there, but nothing worked. Wake up, I told myself. Wake up, 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 wake up. You can touch me if you want to, said Rankin. My hands were at my sides, my right one pressed against Rankin's stomach where he was lying next to me. I could feel his skin and the muscle beneath it. He moved closer, and my fingertips touched skin and hair. I was so scared I couldn't move. Mostly I wanted to be anywhere else, but part of me was really curious. He pushed himself against me. He was hard. I moved my hand, and my fingers wrapped around him. I wasn't sure why I was doing it. Maybe I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't do it. I just pretended I was still dreaming. Rankin's body tensed, then relaxed, and the two of us just stayed there like that for a while. I could feel the blood pumping through him, and I started moving my hand up and down him. He put his hand back between my legs and did the same thing. Neither of us said anything while we did it, but every so often Rankin would brush his lips against my neck. I don't know how long we were there, but it felt like hours. Then I felt Rankin's body stiffen and he groaned. My hand was covered in sticky heat, and he gripped me harder. A few seconds later, I was done too. I didn't know what to do afterward. I realize I'm actually a bit out of the middle of that. I didn't know what to do afterward. Rankin sat up and wiped his hands on his t-shirt, which he'd thrown on the floor. Then he pulled his underwear on and left without saying anything. When he was gone, I put my hand to my nose. It was still sticky from him. I could smell Rankin on my fingers, a mix of sweat and something else I can't really describe. I wiped my hand on the sheets to get it off, but the smell stayed in my nose, no matter how hard I breathed to clear it out. I tried to get back to sleep, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I could feel Rankin touching me, feel his breath on my neck and his skin against mine. Why did I do that with him? Why did I let him stay? I don't know why, but I did. And now I feel like crap. Dirty. Worst of all, I have to see my parents today. And I don't even want to think about having to see Rankin later. Maybe he won't say anything and we can pretend it never happened. He's good at that, right? And maybe it didn't happen. Maybe it was all it was all a sick dream, and I'll still wake up. Hmm. excuse me. Day 29. I honestly can't tell you much about how things went with my parents this morning. It was fine, I guess. We basically talked about how much we all love each other and how they're looking forward to having me come home in a couple of weeks. I didn't say much, and for once, Cat Poop didn't push me. Maybe he could see how tired I was. I'm sure I'll get grilled about it in our session tomorrow. Anyway, the point is, I'm sort of preoccupied. For obvious reasons, I try to avoid Rankin, but I ran into him this morning in the bathroom. I seriously have to talk to somebody about getting my own bathroom. This togetherness thing is becoming a problem. I wasn't even going to take a shower. That's how much I didn't want to see Rankin. But around here, if you don't take a shower, someone will accuse you of being depressed. Again, and you'll have to go through the whole, is anything troubling you today, Jeff bullshit. Who needs it? Also, I didn't want to meet my parents smelling like Rankin's dick. So, of course, I walked in and there he was. He had his towel wrapped around his waist, and he was standing outside the shower waiting for the water to get hot. The water here takes forever to warm up. I swear they have like 3 old women in the basement boiling water over actual fires. Then the water takes so long to get up here. It's only warmish when it comes out. Hey, Rankin said, like nothing weird had happened. Hey, I said back, then stood there feeling like an idiot. But what was I supposed to say? Thanks for coming over last night. Sorry I didn't have any clean sheets on the bed? I mean, what? I was going to turn around and leave, but right then Rankin dropped his towel. Then he looked at me, nodded toward the shower, and stepped in. I swear I don't know why I did it, but I followed him. It was like someone else had taken control of my body. Rankin had left the curtain open, and before I knew what I was doing, I stepped inside and pulled it close behind me. We just stood there for a while under the water. The stalls aren't that big, so we were basically pressed against each other. I was staring at his chest, noticing how hairy he is, and trying not to think about anything. Then Rankin kissed me. His lips pressed against mine. He had some beard stubble, and it felt scratchy on my cheek. Rankin pushed me against the wall. The towels were cold, and I tried to move away from them, but Rankin was kind of leaning against me. I put my hands on his chest to try and push him back, but as soon as I touched him, it was like someone had glued us together. He put his hands on my butt and pulled me closer. He kept kissing me while he pumped himself against me. He was hard, and I reached down and wrapped my fingers around it. Suck it, Rankin said. I wasn't sure I'd heard him right, so I didn't do anything. Then he put his hands on my shoulders and kind of pushed me down so that I was on my knees. The water splashed on my head and ran down my face. I was staring at his dick and his balls and thinking how big they looked close up. I don't know why I didn't just get up and leave. I could have. It wasn't like he was holding me prisoner, but I couldn't stop staring at his dick. It was just so weird to be kneeling there in the shower in front of another guy. And for some reason I kept thinking, I wonder what it tastes like. I opened my mouth and put it on the tip of his dick. The skin tasted salty and a little sticky. Rankin put his hands on my head and pushed inside me a little, and I started to choke. He pulled back and I breathed in and I felt more relaxed. Then I tried again. We didn't do it for very long before I heard him moan. My mouth filled with something warm and salty, and I realized Rankin was coming. I didn't want to swallow it, so I held it in my mouth until he pulled out. Then I turned and spit it out. I have a buddy I do that with sometimes, Rankin said. He had started to soap himself up and was washing under his arms. I didn't say anything. I stood up. I kind of thought he might blow me next, but all he said was, "You should probably get in another shower, in case they come in on rounds." "Right," I said. I opened the curtain and stepped out. The air was cold and I shivered as I went to the shower beside Rankin's and turned on the water. I didn't even wait for it to warm up. I got in and then tried to stand close to the wall so that the cold water wouldn't hit me. But it did. And it felt like I was trapped in one of those freak summer storms where you're riding along on your bike and then the sky opens up and dumps rain on you so that you have to wait it out under a tree. Then your t-shirt is soaking wet, and all you can think about is getting home and into something dry. Rankin was humming. I could hear it through the shower wall. It wasn't really a song, more like the weird, out-of-tune melody. I listened to him while the water warmed up, or maybe just until I got used to it being cold. Something about the song was familiar. Then I realized he was humming London Bridge, only not quite right. He sounded like a little kid trying to sing something he'd just learned in school. I soaked up and tried to ignore him. I could still taste him in my mouth. I wish I had some mouthwash, but I didn't. So I just opened my mouth and let the water fill it up. I swished it around and spit, but I could still taste Rankin's dick. It was like when you eat peppers or something, and no matter what you drink, you can't get it off your tongue. After a few minutes he stopped humming and got out. I heard him drawing off. Then he left without saying anything, as if nothing weird had happened. Again. I stood under that water for a long time. For some reason I couldn't get that stupid London Bridge song out of my head. Lon- London Bridge is falling down. I I kept hearing, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. When I was little, I had a record of that song. I used to play it over and over. Standing in the shower, I started singing the next words. Take her key and lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. Take a key and lock her up, my fair lady. For some reason that made me start crying. I just slid down the wall and sat there in that goddamn shower, crying and singing that stupid song over and over. Hmm. Make that 3 moments now. Because I honestly forgot that whole bit happened, and I think you can understand why. Because remember, I'm reading a book where our character is a 15-year-old, and these are other teenagers getting involved in situations that it's not even funny. Like, at all. Like, hell. Like, what we just read, the 2 parts that we just read, are not even funny. They are serious. Because one involves a possible rape kind of thing because of the fact that Jeff did not give Rankin technical consent to do what he did after Jeff woke up from his dream. And on top of that, you just have this moment where they literally just had, where they just had, where Jeff had sexual intercourse with him by sucking his dick. So, yeah, I'm pretty certain I would probably give this an R rating easily. Possibly an NC-17 rating. Because these are two minors that are. I would probably give this an R rating. Now that I think about it, yeah. Day 30. I think I figured out what Rankin's brand of crazy is. He's projecting, or whatever they call it, when you scare someone else of being what you are. Personally, I call it being an asshole, but I guess they needed to come up with a name that sounds more official. Excuse me. This morning I went to the bathroom to pee. I put it off as long as I could. You know, like when, for whatever reason, you don't want to get out of the bed, so you lie there hoping the pee will just magically turn to steam or something, but it doesn't, and eventually you can't stand it anymore and have to get up. I lasted for maybe half an hour. Then it got to the point where I either had to get out of bed or pee in it. Frankly, I was tempted, but I just couldn't do it. I had to get up. And then there was Rankin. I don't know how he always manages to be in the bathroom when I need to use it, but it's starting to freak me out. He's like one of those dogs who can sense when a person is going to have a seizure. Only Rankin senses whenever I need to pee. He was shaving at one of the sinks. I didn't look at him while I went to the urinal, even though he was literally right behind me. For a few seconds, I actually expected to feel him coming up behind me again, but he stayed put. After I peed, I went to wash my hands. I figured I should say something, since Rankin seemed a little edgy. Hey, about yesterday, I said. It's no big deal. You don't have to worry. I'm not going to tell anyone about you. I figured that was kind of big of me, since he was the one who got all gay on me. I mean, I didn't start any of it. About me, he said, making that confused face he does when he doesn't understand something. What about me? About how I said. About what happened. He looked at me like I just called him a puppy killer or something. Me, he said. I was going to say that I won't tell anyone about you. I couldn't believe it. He was the one who came into my room. He was the one who touched me, not the other way around. When I told him that, he shook his head. No way, man, he said. I'm not like that. I was just fooling around with you. It's not like there are any girls here to do it with or anything. If we weren't in here, it would never have happened. There are girls here, I said. I was mad and I wanted to push him a little. He made a grunting sound. None I'd go near, he said. They're all whack jobs. And what about you? I asked him. What am I? In case you ha- What am I? In case you haven't noticed, we're all whack jobs. I'm just saying, said Rankin. He wasn't any. It wasn't anything to get bent out of shape about, okay? Yeah, I said, washing my hands for the sixth time. Okay. I wasn't going to say anything anyway. He smiled a goofy smile. Me neither, he said. So we're good? I nodded as I turned off the water. Rankin gave me this weird punch in the shoulder, like we'd just scored a goal or something. Then he went back to shaving, and I went back to my room. I waited until I was pretty sure he would be out of the bathroom before I went back for my shower. I still can't believe he thinks I'm the one with the problem. How is that even possible? Okay, so maybe I was the one who did the sucking, but he was the one who wanted it. I didn't. I just did it because he did. I can't even think about it right now. It makes me too mad. I'll deal with it later. Besides, there's other stuff on my mind. Namely, leaving. In my session with Cat Poop today, he reminded me that I'm 2/3 of the way through my 45 days. On the one hand, that makes it seem like time is flying by. On the other, I feel like I've been here for 30 years now. For 30 years, not 30 days. You didn't seem very excited about leaving when your parents talked about it yesterday, Catpoop said. How come? I shrugged. I didn't know what to say. Because here's the weird thing. Sometimes I wish I could stay here forever. It's like being in a castle with a moat around it. Sure, it's a castle filled with crazy people, but at least no one can get in unless we let them in. Of course, we can't get out either. But when you think about it, what's so great about being here, being out there? There's too much out there that can hurt you. In here, you don't have to worry about it. You just have to worry about being molested by jocks. But like I said, I'm not thinking about that. Cat Poop tried another question on me. What do you want your life to be like when you leave here? He asked me. I thought about it for a minute. I want to be so rich that I can buy my own island and live on it all by myself. You know what he said? What about music? What about movies? I'll order them online, I said. Food too. You can pretty much get anything online. Did you know you can even buy Black Widow spiders online? It's true. Amanda and I looked it up one day when we were talking about how you could kill someone and get away with it. Just hypothetically, of course. I have enough problems without being a psychopath. Or sociopath. Whatever. Anyway, Amanda thought you could get a whole bunch of Black Widows, put them in a box, and mail it to whoever you wanted to kill. And it turns out you can. They aren't even that expensive. Something like $3 each. Even friends? Catpoop said. What do you think most people spend their time online doing? I asked him. Isn't that the whole point of the internet? That you can pretend to be someone else so that a bunch of other people will like you? Practically every kid in my school had their own website. And believe me, they make themselves sound a lot more interesting than they really are. Seriously, does Jamie Kaczynski really think anyone is going to believe the pictures her cousin took with his digital camera were used in the Venezuelan edition of 17? What about love? Catpoop asked me, not answering my question. I'm getting kind of tired of him doing that. Personally, I think it's rude. What about it? I asked back. If you're all alone on the island, you won't have anyone there who loves you, he said. I think I'll survive somehow, I told him. Don't you ever want to be in love? He said. I knew where he was going with that. Allie again. Man, he doesn't give up. I guess he thinks one of these days I won't realize what he's doing and spill the beans. Here's a clue, Catpoop. There are no beans. What's love, anyway? I said. I think it's just something greeting card makers made up and try to get us to believe in. Between you and me, I'd rather have an Xbox. Thankfully, my time was up right about then, and I escaped back to the ward, where it's mostly safe, Rankin being the exception. But I haven't seen him. He's probably in his room reading Sports Illustrated and not being gay. Later on, I told Sadie about my session with Catpoop. What's his obsession with love? I asked her. I don't know, Sadie said, but I think love is really important. I thought for a minute that she was messing with me. Then she looked around like she was making sure no one was listening and whispered, Want to see something? She didn't wait for me to answer. Instead, she dug around in her pocket and pulled something out. It was a piece of paper. She unfolded it and handed it to me. It was a newspaper clipping. The headline was, Hero Rescues Girl from Watery Grave. I looked at Sadie. This is about you, I said. She nodded. Yeah, I cut it out and keep it. I have a lot more at home. Sort of suicide scrapbook, but this one's my favorite. Alongside the article was a picture of a man. He had a round, happy face and bright blue eyes. He was going bald and he had a thick mustache. "That's Sam," Sadie said, seeing me looking at the picture. The, the one who saved you?" I asked her. She nodded. "My guardian angel." At first I thought she was making a joke, but when I looked at her face, I knew she wasn't. She was staring at the picture of Sam, like it was a picture of Jesus or something. It creeped me out a little. "Doesn't it make you depressed reading this over and over?" I asked her. "No," she said Sadie, sounding surprised that I would even ask. "It makes me happy." She brought her knees up and wrapped her arms around them. "It makes me feel loved," she said. "He loved me enough to save me." I followed her eyes to the picture of Sam. Did she really believe he loved her? He didn't even know her when he went in after her. She was just someone who needed saving. She was acting like he was her father or her boyfriend. I folded up the article again and handed it to her. Before she put it back in her pocket, she kissed it, like it was a magic charm or something. I still can't believe she keeps that thing. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. And I don't understand why she thinks that guy, Sam, loves her. I mean, he was just doing the right thing. I think most people would jump in and try to help someone who is drowning. Or maybe not. Maybe some people would just stand there and watch. I guess that's why Sadie thinks this guy is so special. But it's still weird that she's so in love with him. I'm not sure who's crazier, her or Rankin. Right now, I'd say it's a tie. Personally, I would say Rankin's a little, a little crazy. Because of the fact that he just did, because at the very beginning of this part, we read that he did one thing that he shouldn't have done without consent. Well, even with consent, I don't know if that would be a thing here. But, yeah, molestation is a real issue. Amongst, in just a general sense, it's a real issue with molestation. Yeah, I thought it was rape when I first read it, but then when he said, and then when he brought up the fact that Rankin molested him, that's when I realized, yeah, that's true. That's not rape. It's molestation more than rape. But, but still, it's a really, really serious moment, and not in a good way either. Day 31. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? Just one. It could be anything. A physical thing you wish you had or didn't have, a talent you'd like to have, anything. But you only get one. That was the question we talked about in group today. You'd think that we all would have picked something to do with why we're here, but mostly we didn't. Juliet said she wished she could play the cello because she'd like to be able to make people feel the way she does when she hears someone play. Sadie said she wished she could talk to dead people. Rankin said he wished he could throw a perfect spiral pass. And I said I wished I wasn't afraid of heights. Later in my one-on-one, Catpoop asked me if I'd noticed anything different about what I'd said compared to what everyone else said. I thought for a minute but couldn't come up with anything. You were the only one who said you wanted to get rid of something, he told me. Everyone else wanted to add something to themselves, but you wanted to give something up. Why did you say you'd like to get rid of your fear of heights? I don't know, I said. It was the first thing that came to me. It's true, too. I am afraid of heights. I don't ever like going up in elevators past above 6 floors. What about that fear makes it the one thing you want to get rid of? Cat Poop asked me. I had to think about that for a while. Finally, I said, I guess because it keeps me from doing things I'd like to do. He asked me what kinds of things, and I told him I've always wanted to try skydiving, or maybe even bungee jumping. But I'm afraid of heights, I said, so I can't. What is it about heights that you're afraid of? He asked me. What a dumb question. Falling, of course. I'm afraid of falling. That's probably why I dream about it a lot. Actually, what I said to the doc was that I'm afraid that, that suddenly I'll have this uncontrollable urge to climb up on the railing of the bridge or run to the bridge at the edge of the cliff or whatever and just throw myself off before anyone can stop me. Cat Poop wrote something on his pad, which by now was all which which by now we all know means I've said something he thinks is interesting. This time I asked him why he thought my answer was worth writing down. Since it's my life he's dissecting, I figured I had the right to know. Why do you think you have this urge to jump? He said, instead of answering my question. I guess because sometimes it's nice to lose control, I said, after I thought about it. I feel like I'm always trying to keep control of my life. Sometimes I'd like to just be able to just let go and fall. Even if it means you might get hurt, he said. I don't think about that, I answered. I just think about the falling, with no parachute or net or anything to catch me. I just think about falling and it scares me. How about falling in love? He said. Are you afraid of that? What, is love like the topic of the month around here or something? It sure didn't take him long to get back to that subject. I'm only 15, I said. A lot of people fall in love for the first time around your age, said Cat Poop. Why do you want to know? I said. Do you have a daughter you want to introduce me to or something? He pushed his glasses up his nose. No, he said, I don't. What if you did? I asked him. Would you want her to date a guy like me? That's impossible to answer, Cat Poop said. I don't have a daughter, so I don't know how I would feel about her dating anyone. It's purely hypothetical. Well, purely hypothetically, I said, would you want her to date someone like me? Someone who'd been in a place like this? Cat Poop scribbled something on his pad. Are you afraid people won't want to date you because you've been in here? He asked me. I asked you first, I said. We stared at each other for a while. I guess we were having another game of Psycho Chicken. Anyway, Cat Poop blinked first this time. I would want my daughter to date the person who made her the happiest, he said. Even if that person was crazy, I said. Even if that person was like me. If I remember correctly, you've spent a great deal of time telling me you aren't crazy, Cat Poop reminded me. I'm being hypothetical, I said. So, would you? He sighed. I don't know, he said. I laughed. I didn't think... I didn't think so, I told him. Now answer my question, Cat Poop said. Are you afraid that no one will want to be with you if they know you've spent time here? I don't care what people think, I told him. How about what you think, he said. I haven't given it a lot of thought, I answered. Let me get back to you. How about Allie? Cat Poop said. Do you think she'll still want to be friends with you? I didn't know how to answer that one. Allie always said that we'd be best friends no matter what. Was that still true? You'd have to ask her, I said. He let me go after a few more minutes, and he didn't bring up love again, which is really a relief because I'm getting tired of that subject. Getting back to the original question, the one about what I would change about myself, it's not really my fear of heights that I'd change. I mean, it's not like that's keeping me from achieving my life's dream of being a tightrope walker or anything. I know it's funny that old cat poop got all excited about it, because really it was just something to say. The truth is, I'd like to have a tail. Seriously. Not a dog tail or a pig tail or anything like that. I want a monkey tail. A long one that I could use to pick stuff up with and, and hang by. I think that would be completely cool. Hmm. Alright. Day 32. What's playing tonight on Nuthouse TV? I asked Sadie. As usual, we were in the lounge. Everyone else had gone to bed, even though it wasn't all that late. And except for Moody, we had the place to ourselves. It reminded me of how sometimes Allie and I stay up late watching movies. Well, how we used to. Sadie flipped through the channels. Um, we have a vampire movie, a documentary on whales, or the Home Shopping Network. Definitely the Home Shopping Network, I said. Sadie settled on that channel. The host, a woman with big red hair and an even bigger smile, was showing off some ugly jewelry. She was holding up a ring with a giant fake diamond on it. And for only $29.99, you can have the genuine artificial piece of crap that everyone will know isn't real, I said. No fair, said Sadie. You're supposed to make up something completely different than what it really is. That is completely than what she's really saying, I argued. She wants us to think that buying that ring will make our lives perfect. Maybe it would, Sadie suggested. Right, I said, snorting. No, really, Sadie said. Maybe someone out there has been wanting a ring like that their whole life. Now they can get it for $29.99. Plus shipping and handling, I said. What's gotten into you? I don't know, Sadie said. I'm probably just premen- premenst- premenstrual or something. It just kind of makes me sad to look at that ring and think that somewhere there's this person who has to have it. And I really wish that the ring would make that person's life better. Did you take all your meds today? I asked her. Sadie turned the TV off. Let's just talk, she said. About what? I asked. I don't know, Sadie asked Sadie. I don't know, said Sadie. Me? You? Us? Anything? I know what this is about, I said. Cat poop got into your brain. He's turned you into therapy girl. Bite me, Sadie said, slapping my leg. Nobody talks around here, she said. We all pretend to, but we never really do. She pointed to the television. We're like the people in there, she said, like the TV was an apartment house or something. We open our mouths, but nothing really comes out. I'd never heard her talk like this, and to tell the truth, it was a little freaky. I mean, I could always count on Sadie to be sarcastic and funny. Now she was going all Oprah on me. Come on, Sadie said. Tell me a secret. Now we're telling secrets? I said. What's next? Spin the bottle? Tell me a secret, she said again, poking her finger into my thigh to punctuate each wound. Ow, I said. Okay, you win. I'll tell you a secret. Then before I knew it, I blurted out, I fooled around with Rankin. I couldn't believe I'd said it. I didn't mean to. I didn't want to. I'd actually been thinking about telling her something about me and Allie, but that's what came out. Afterward, I sat there wishing I could disappear. You fooled around with Rankin? She said. I almost told her I was kidding. I knew she would believe me if I laughed hard enough to prove it to her, but I didn't. I just nodded. I couldn't say anything. I mean, I just told her the worst thing I'd ever done in my entire life. And do you know what she did? She rolled her eyes. You call that a secret? She said. Um, yeah, I said. Don't you? Well, what do you mean you fooled around? We, I said, then stopped. We just... I almost told her about my sucking Rankin's dick, but I couldn't. So I moved my hand up and down like I was. Well, like I was doing what Rankin and I did, the first time. You guys jacked off together? She guessed. I nodded. Wow, she said, and made her eyes really big. For a second I thought she was going to freak out on me, and I started to panic. Then she laughed. Big news flash, she said. Guys whack off, film at 11. I didn't know what to say. I thought she would at least be a little surprised. I know she thought me seeing Rankin playing with himself was nothing exciting, but this was different. Totally different. This was me and Rankin playing with each other. Here I was totally freaking out about what happened, and she was treating it like it was nothing. I almost felt like I should apologize for being so boring. I meant a secret about you, Sadie said. That was about me, I said. No, said Sadie. It was just something you did that you think people would be freaked out about if they knew. Trust me, everybody around here has done stuff way weirder than that. Like what? I asked. Remember Alice? Said Sadie. Like I could ever forget. I nodded. She used to catch flies and eat them. And last time I was here, there was this guy named Benny. He liked to hide things up his butt. Trust me, what you and Rankin did was so not secret worthy. I looked at her while she waited for me to respond. Sorry, I said. It's all I got. Which wasn't true, but for some reason I wanted to stop while I was actually felt a little better. I was afraid if I told Sadie the rest, suddenly it wouldn't be so normal. How about what happened between you and Allie? She said. What do you mean? Come on, Sadie said. I know you did what you did because something happened between the two of you. So what was it? You can tell me, since we're sharing and everything. There's nothing to tell, I said. To tell the truth, in a weird way, I was kind of pissed off that she didn't think the thing with Rankin was a real secret. I mean, even if it wasn't a big deal, and even if I did feel a little better about it, now, it was still a secret. Sadie clearly wasn't buying my cool act. Yeah, there is, she argued. What? You slept with her and her friend and her... What, you slept with her and she freaked out? You and that Burt guy got into a fight over her? What was it? I told you it had nothing to do with her, I said. I thought she would push me some more, but she didn't. She just looked at me for a long time. I looked right back at her. I've gotten pretty good at staring contests, what with the Doc and I having one practically every day. The trick is to sort of unfocus your eyes so that you're looking at the person, but not really seeing them. If you do it right, they can never tell. That's how I won the staring contest with Sadie. After a minute, she just turned away and turned the TV back on. The sound was still off, so we sat and watched the host talk. Now she was pitching some fake pearl necklace. Sadie was quiet for so long that I thought maybe she was pissed at me. I was just about to say something when she started talking again. Remember that Saturday morning cartoon show with all the superheroes? She asked. Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Superman? Sure, I said. Super Friends. What about it? Real quick before we continue, another show that would basically have those characters in it is a 2000 show. I don't know, maybe the people that are just about as old as I am may or may not have heard about this show. But there was a show that aired in the 2000s titled Justice League. And then there was a sequel to that show titled Justice League Unlimited. That's actually how I got into some of these superheroes, particularly Batman. I actually have. Let me show you guys something real quick here. I am such a fan of Batman. I got the whole series of the 1990s animated series on Blu-ray. And it even comes with 2 movies. It comes with Batman, The Mask of the Phantasm, one of my favorite animated movies of all time, and Batman and Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero. Yeah, that one I haven't seen in a while, so I can't remember too much about it. But I did see Mask of the Phantasm, and I loved it. Even though there was one particular scene that scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. So every time I would watch that movie and that scene would come up, I'm instantly like getting out of that room and doing literally something else for that short time while that scene played. It scared me that badly as a kid. If you know, you know. If you don't know, I'm not saying nothing because spoilers. I am not spoiling that movie for anybody at all. But it's such a damn good movie. Getting back to the story, and I need to put myself in the middle there we go. Sadie stared at the television. They all looked like normal people until they turned into these other things, right? But it always turned out that they originally turned into superheroes when they were running from something they didn't like about themselves. Like Batman fought the dark part of his soul by battling bad guys and all that. I think Wonder Woman was just born Wonder Woman, I have argued. And Superman was just Superman. Okay, Sadie said. Bad examples, but think about the really interesting superheroes. Most of them were normal until they turned into something freaky. Like Wolverine. He was part of some experiment, and the guy who turned into the Hulk needed to do it because it meant he was mad. Plus it hurt. I guess so, I admitted. Sadie went on. When I was a kid, I used to watch that show, sitting on the couch in my pajamas and wishing more than anything that one day that I changed into this other person. She said, I thought that would explain everything, about why I felt so different. Then I'd find out that my mother was really an alien, or that I'd been bitten by a radioactive spider as a baby, and it would be all okay because I'd be able to fly and see through walls. She stopped talking and watched the TV some more. I thought that I should say something, but then she started talking again. But it never happened, she said. I just went on being me my whole life, until one day I realized that all those superheroes were doing was fighting themselves, and then getting to breathe in the water or shoot fire from your fingers didn't really make up for being screwed up in the first place. It was just a consolation prize. You got the great costume and the invisible jet for being a loser in everything else. She stared at the silent TV. Her expression was completely blank, as if her head was just flown out of her body. It was actually kind of scary. I guess I just want my invisible jet, she said. We're almost done with this part. We got a few more chapters to go. But we are one chapter away from a very big moment. Like I said, I'm not gonna spoil it. I'll just keep on reading when we get there. And also, I'm saying this in anticipation for everybody that wants to hear this part. Day 33. Now I know for sure that all of this is a dream, because what happened tonight can't possibly be real. It just can't. I don't even know where to start. Rankin came in my room last night. I guess technically it was earlier today, since it must have been around 1 or 2 in the morning. I was sleeping and then I felt something pressing against my back. Rankin had pulled my shorts down and he was pushing himself against me. I was still only half awake, so I didn't realize what he was doing at first. He put his arms around me and pulled me closer. I could hear him breathing in my ear. Believe it or not, that's not even the bad thing. If that was all, I could probably handle it. Probably. But that was just the beginning. Like I said, Rankin was holding on to me and trying to... I don't think I can even say it right now. But he was getting close. As soon as I realized what he was doing, I woke up fast. I even opened my mouth to tell him to stop. And that's when the screaming started. At first I thought it was me screaming. Then I realized it was a girl's voice. I don't know what Rankin thought was going on, but he pulled me closer to him and put his hand on my mouth. Maybe he thought I was the one screaming too. It was so weird. I was trying to figure out who was screaming, and I was trying to get Rankin off me all at the same time. Everything was happening at once, but I felt like I couldn't even move because I didn't know what was more important, getting away from Rankin or helping whoever was making the awful noise. That's when the light came on. It snapped on like fireworks exploding over our heads. I couldn't see. Rankin rolled off of me and sat on the edge of the bed, covering himself with his hands. I looked up and saw Carl and Nurse Moon standing in the doorway. The screaming had stopped, like the light switch controlled that too. Pull your shorts up, Jeff, Mooney said. She wasn't yelling or anything. She said it really calmly. I pulled up my underwear. Rankin had picked his up from the floor and was pulling them on. I glanced over at Nurse Moon and saw that she was looking down to give him some privacy. Carl, though, was staring at us and shaking his head, like we were his grandkids and we just disappointed him big time. Rankin, back to your room, Nurse Moon had said when he was dressed. Rankin didn't look at me as he walked out of the room. He didn't look at Mooney or Carl either. He rushed by them and down the hall. I looked at Nurse Moon, my heart pounding in my chest. What's going on? I asked. Who was screaming? It's Martha, Mooney told me. That scared me. Is she alright? I asked. What happened? Is she hurt? I started to go toward the door. Don't you worry about her, said Nurse Moon, holding up her hand so that I would stop. She had a bad dream, that's all. I nodded. I know all about dreams that make you want to scream. Then I remembered why Carl and Nurse Moon were in my room in the first place. I'm gonna do this real quick here. Think of that. Because that's the kind of scream that you think about when you read something like that, where you don't know what's going on, but you know it is a blood curdling sounding scream, or like the kind of scream that you would expect to hear from seeing something terrifying, if not a blood curdling scream. That's the kind of scream I was envisioning in my head. I just wanted to play it so you guys understood what I was thinking. But I hope that didn't wake my family up any. Getting back to the story. We were just I began. Moody interrupted me. Dr. K- Dr. Krazupas will talk to you in the morning, she said. Good night. That was it. Good night. And she was tucking me in. No yelling. No, I'm very disappointed in you. No, nothing. And you know what? That was worse. If she'd yelled or seemed disgusted or even at all upset, I would have felt better. But she treated it like she didn't care. Like it didn't matter. Excuse me. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know anymore. Maybe Sadie is right and it's just something guys do. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. I'd really rather not talk about it with cat poop, though. It's exactly the kind of thing he writes about on his stupid pad. When I finally fell asleep after Mooney left, I had the weirdest dream. First, we were in group. All of us, even the people who were gone now. Cat poop asked us to go around the circle and say what we were most afraid of. Alice said she was afraid of being alone. Bone said he was afraid of cars, which seemed weird until I remembered the whole gas station thing. Juliet said she was afraid of teeth, which, because she's Juliet, didn't seem strange at all. Rankin said he was afraid of losing. Martha didn't say anything. Sadie said she wasn't afraid of anything, and I believed her. In my dream, it was like she had this force field around her that protected her from everything the rest of us have to watch out for. Then she looked at me and said, once you realize there's nothing to be afraid of when you die, there's nothing else to worry about. When it was my turn, I couldn't think of anything. When it was my turn, I couldn't think of anything to say. I looked around at the rest of the group and thought how messed up they all were. Then I looked at my wrists and realized that they were bleeding again. I pulled my sleeves down to cover them, but I could feel the blood soaking through, and I was afraid everyone was going to notice and start laughing at me. When I woke up from the dream, I felt weird. I can't really explain it. There was this knot in my stomach, the same kind I get when I wake up the morning of a big test. I know I haven't studied enough for. Then I remembered Rankin, and that I was going to have to talk to Cat Poop about what happened, and I knew why the knot was there. Are you guys ready now? Because now we're gonna find out why Martha was actually screaming. Strap yourselves in. I'm not gonna say anything, but be mentally prepared for what you're about to hear. Day 34. I'll never know what Sadie would have thought about my dream. I was going to tell her, but she... No. Wait. I have to start at the beginning. If I don't, I'm going to get everything mixed up because right now it's all swirling around in my brain. I can catch bits and pieces of it, but trying to see the whole picture at once is really hard. I don't even know if I want to see it. If I see it, I might fall apart. So yesterday morning, after the famous Jeff and Rankin got busted incident, I got dressed and walked down the hall to the lounge. I did not take a shower, which is a little gross, but I don't exactly have a great track record in that department lately. Part of me expected everyone to be lined up, waiting to tell me how awful I was before they threw me out, but no one else was up. Instead, Goody was sitting at the desk, reading a file. I wondered if it was mine, and she knew what had happened. Dr. Katsopis is waiting for you in his office, she said, answering that question. I walked down the hall to Cat Poop's door and knocked. He opened it, and I walked into his office, not saying anything or even looking at him. I sat down in the chair across from his desk and waited for him to tell me I was leaving. Do you want to talk about what happened last night? He said. Not really, I told him, but I'll bet $1,000,000 that you do. He nodded. Do you have anything to say about it? I shook my head. Let me ask you this, said Cat Poop. How did it happen? What do you mean, how did it happen? How did it happen? He repeated. I think it's a pretty straightforward question. I kind of huffed at him. It was a stupid question, is what it was. I shrugged. He came into my room, got into my bed, and tried to butt burgle me. Cat Poop pushed his glasses up. You sure? He asked. Of course I'm sure, I answered. Trust me, if some guy tries to stick his junk in you, you know it. I meant that you're certain you didn't encourage Rankin in any way. I had to think about that one. I mean, Rankin's the one who started it every time we've done anything. But it's not like he's ever forced me to do it. And until last night, I've never exactly told him not to do what he's done. Maybe if I had, he wouldn't have kept trying. But I didn't want to tell Cat Poop that. It would just make me look like a victim, and he'd want to talk about it even more. Are you suggesting that I asked for it because I wore my sexy boxers? I asked instead. I spoke to Rankin this morning, said the doc. He said that it was you who talked him into doing it. What? I said. He said I started it? I couldn't believe that Rankin had lied. Well, yes, I could. Still, I was pissed off. It was not my idea, I said, more to myself than to Cat Poop. He's the one who came to my room. He's the one who's... I stopped myself from saying it, but I thought it. A fag. Rankin was the fag around here, not me. Cat Poop pushed his glasses up his nose again, and I almost told him to knock it off. Jeff, I have to tell you that this is a serious breach of hospital rules. You could be asked to leave the program. Finally, I muttered. If I had known that, I would have done it a long time ago. Unless, said the doc, there's some other reason for your behavior. Something that relates to your overall reason for being here. It took me a minute to understand what he was saying. When I did, I got mad. Nice, I said. You're trying to get me to talk by threatening to kick me out for something I didn't do. Where did they teach you that? Shrimp torture school? Cat Poop leaned forward. All I'm asking you is if what you did with Rankin has any connection to why you hurt yourself, he said. No, I said instantly. It has nothing to do with it. I mean, I fooled around with Sadie too, and that didn't mean... I stopped, realizing that I just made a huge mistake. You and Sadie... Cat Poop started to say. His finger was already halfway up to his nose. No, I interrupted. I didn't mean it like that. What exactly did you mean? I searched around in my head for some answer to give him. Anything that could erase what I'd already said. But I knew I couldn't. I'd gone too far. Alright, I said. Okay, I just wanted to wait for that toilet. Alright, I said. Yeah, I fooled around with Sadie. But I couldn't. I looked at my hands, which were in my lap. My fingers were wrestling with each other. Couldn't what? I forced my hands to be still. Couldn't, you know, do it, I mumbled. And with Rankin, it was just fooling around. Nothing serious. It's not like I'm in love with him or anything. Not like it was with... Again, I realized too late that I'd slipped up. That made twice in less than 5 minutes. If I didn't do damage control and fast, I was basically going to make sure I was on the next bus out of there. And for some reason, I didn't want to be on that bus. With whom? Catpoop asked. Nobody, I said. I was just talking. With Allie? He said. I could feel his eyes on me. I started to say that, yeah, it was Allie. But I didn't. I didn't say anything. He was starting to win, and I didn't want him to win. I wanted to be the winner, even if it meant letting him think I'd come on to Rankin or whatever. And that's when he dropped the bomb. Jeff, he said, I have to tell you something. About Sadie. I know we shouldn't have, I said, trying to heat him off. It was bad enough that I was probably going to get kicked out. I didn't want to be responsible for Sadie having to leave, too. So I just kept talking, hoping it would make him change his mind. That time it was my idea. I'm the one who went into her room. She didn't come into mine. And really it was no big thing, anyway. I was just feeling lonely. You could even ask her. Jeff, listen, he said. His voice sounded weird, and suddenly I wanted to be anywhere but in his office. The way he looked reminded me of the way my dad looked the time he had to tell Amanda that her cat got hit by a car. What? I asked. Did she leave already? Did you kick her out? Because I'm telling you the truth. You can't just... Jeff, Catpoop interrupted. Sadie's dead. I knew he hadn't just said that. I mean, there was no way he could have said it. Sadie's dead? No, I was sure I'd heard wrong. He'd said, Sadie's gone. That's what he'd said. What do you mean? I asked him. You mean she left? Last night, he said. You heard the screaming, right? But that was Martha, I said. Moonface said it was Martha. He nodded. It was Martha, he said. She had a bad dream, I said. Catpoop actually took off his glasses. It was the first time he'd ever done that, and it made him look naked. Naked and tired. Then I realized that he hadn't shaved. It was like he'd been up all night. He rubbed his eyes for a minute before talking again. Martha went to Sadie's room, he said. I imagine she did have a bad dream and wanted to be comforted. She found Sadie. Found her what? I asked him, not understanding. He shook his head. Dead, he said. Flat. Just like that. She found Sadie dead. I laughed. I know it sounds weird, but I did. You're kidding, I said. You'd better be kidding, because Sadie is not dead. She's waiting to have breakfast with me. It's pancake day. I'm sorry, said Cat Poop. I know this is very difficult for you to hear and accept, particularly under the circumstances. And I wouldn't have told you now, but under the circumstances, I said. Then I started then I started laughing again. I don't know why. It just started pouring out of me, this loud laughter. Like some kind of crazy clown. I don't think I was even thinking anything. I was just laughing. And then it turned into crying. I was crying. Just bawling my eyes out. Then the next thing I knew, Cat Poop was beside me. He actually hugged me. And I let him. I let him hug me while I bawled. I still didn't believe him about Sadie, but I cried anyway. After a while, I didn't even know why I was crying. I didn't know if it was because of the Rankin thing, or the Sadie thing, or the Jeff thing. And it didn't matter. It just felt good. I don't know how long I cried, but it felt like I hit 100 hours. I think part of me thought that if I just kept crying, none of it would be real. Sadie wouldn't be dead. The stuff with Rankin would never have happened. I wouldn't be crazy. But she is. And it did. And I am. Hello, Dragon Demons. Hello, Dragon Demons out. How you doing today? Well, morning for you. How you doing? Um, so let's talk about what we just read. So a character that has been in this story for so long in this story has died. Some people probably, when they first read about this story, and you see how Jeff and Sadie had slowly built up this friendship that seemed like it was going to be a romance. And then out of the blue, this happens. This is something that happens, and not just in books, but it happens in movies too, where where you read a book or you watch a movie, excuse me, and you see two characters having a sort of relationship, only for something to um only for something to just instantly be like that roadblock that just stops everything in its path. Like, the road is closed, nothing more is going to happen because of what just happened here in this moment. For me, the best example I could give is 2019's Joker. And here's why. In this movie is about a guy who initially was a job as a clown, and he would go to children's parties and be the entertaining clown you would expect him to be. But at one point throughout the whole time, a gun drops out of his pocket or something, and he gets fired for it. But as the story progresses, he gets more and more in this downward spiral to the point to where this one character who he has a relationship with, where he goes into her apartment and like they have conversations, but then they start kissing. I don't know about making love, but they do kiss at one point, if not another point or two after that. And then there's a scene where he goes into her apartment, and she comes into the apartment herself, looks at him, and she says, "What are you doing here?" Then at that moment, you realize this. this romance is not going to happen because everything that happened between them was in his head. That's that made that moment one of the best twists in the movie for me. It's probably one of the best twists in movies in general that I've seen. And it's weird how I have this movie, even though I have said before, I have this movie on Blu-ray, and I have said to people who were curious about my thoughts on it, this is probably a movie I would only watch one time and then be done with it. But I ended up buying it on Blu-ray anyway, which kind of probably tells you how much I loved that movie, like how damn good that movie is. And I do know the sequel, and I will watch it, even if there's going to be like musical numbers in there because it does have Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. But still, I'm curious to watch it anyway, even if the musical numbers may or may not dwindle it in any way. But we'll have to wait and see. Day 35, and the penultimate chapter before the end of part 4. So about the whole trying to kill yourself thing. I guess there's no reason not to talk about it now. It's not like things can get any worse. I did it on New Year's Eve. I had the best idea too. I wanted to get drunk along with all the people in Times Square, then do it as the ball fell. You know, slip away with the old year in the whatever it goes when it's used up and we throw it away. So maybe it's a little dramatic, but hey, you've got to appreciate the thought. And no, I didn't actually do it in Times Square. That would just be too weird. I did it at home, in my bedroom, watching it all on TV. The, whi- the whiskey was a good start. I got the idea from Dylan Thomas. He's the poet who's drank 21 straight whiskeys at the White House Tavern in New York and then died on the spot from alcohol poisoning. I've always wanted to hear the bartender's side of the story. What was it like watching this guy drink himself out of here? How did it feel handing him number 21 and watching his face crumple up before he fell off the stool? And did he already have number 21, 22 poured, waiting for that big fat tip, and then have to drink it himself after whoever came took the body away? So I drank some whiskey. I don't see how Dylan Thomas choked down 21 glasses of the stuff. I could barely drink 3, but that was enough. It made everything seem okay somehow, like killing myself was the best idea I'd ever had. I wasn't afraid. Cutting myself felt so good. It was sweet the way the razor opened up the skin, and this red line appeared, like I was pulling a piece of thread out of my wrist. The blood came really slowly, not in some spastic blast like I thought it would. It didn't even really feel like my arm. It was like I was watching someone else's arm in the movie. I kept thinking how great the camera angle was and wishing I had some popcorn. The people on television were counting down the seconds until the new year. What a bunch of morons they all were, acting excited to have another whole year, but having to get trashed so they wouldn't think about how they were going to screw it up again like they had all the other years. Everyone was looking up at the top of the building as though Jesus Christ himself had appeared and was tossing out chocolate-covered salvation. Like just because some crazy glitter ball was falling on their heads, it gave them another chance to be happy. Only I could tell them it never changed. That no matter how many glitter balls fell in New York City, the new year, the year would still suck, and their lives would still be screwed up, and everything would still turn out wrong. Use the razor! I shouted at the television. Use the razor! But none of them did. Just me. That's when I did the other wrist, and that was even better because I knew what it would feel like, knew what would happen. Man, did it feel good. Like slicing open the ribbon on a Christmas present you've been staring at under the tree for a month and been dying to open. Then it's finally time to open it, and you just kind of hold your breath while you rip off the paper, hoping that what's inside will be what you want it to be. And for once it was. Afterward, I just lay there watching everyone kiss while I died, thinking how cool it was to be on my bedroom floor bleeding while everyone else in America celebrated the end of my life, and the idiot hosting the countdown sealed his goofy fake smile on the TV like the angel of death doing a toothpaste commercial. There was none of that tunnel of light crap either. No angels waiting to lead me over. It was just dark and quiet. That's when I woke up and saw my parents bending over me. At first I thought I was dreaming. My mother still had on all her makeup and her party dress, and there were these great big streaks of purple eyeshadow down her cheeks, and her lipstick was all smeared, and she looked like a freaked out grown-style Barbie head my sister had when she was about 8. You know, that life-size plastic head of Barbie, where you can put makeup on it and fix its hair with curlers? Amanda and I used to play with it a lot until the day our next door neighbor, an older kid named Troy, found us doing it and called me a fag. Later on, I buried it in the backyard. So my mother's looking down at me saying, why, over and over again, like some little kid keeps pulling the string that makes her talk. My father isn't saying anything at all. He's just looking at me like maybe he's the one who's screaming. That's when I realized that I wasn't dead, that I was still on the floor of my room, and all I could do was look at my mother's mouth opening and closing, and wonder if I could make her say something else, like one of those see and say toys where you point the arrow to the picture of the chick and it says, the trick goes cluck, cluck, cluck. And I started to laugh, thinking about it, about her ducking non-stop, and she had cried these big purple tears that got splashed against my face like rain. The next time I opened my eyes, I was in this room, this same one I'm in now, staring at the same ceiling I'm staring at right now, looking at the devil's face. It was snowing outside my window, and Nurse Goody was sitting in the chair next to my bed, looking at me like I was an exhibit at the Museum of Natural History, and she was searching for the little brass plaque that would tell her that when I was and when I became extinct. So that's it. That's the big secret. I tried to kill myself on New Year's Eve, just like Sadie did last night, only she really did it. I don't know all the details, just the basics. She took a bunch of pills. I don't know what they were or where she got them. I'd like to think they were a wonder drug. Then at least she could have gone thinking she was flying. Day 36, and the final day for part 4. My mother started right off with the hugging. Just with the hugging. Like now that she's started doing it, she can't stop. We were so sorry to hear that your friend is gone, she said, patting me on the back. At first I thought she meant Rankin, who got sent home because of what happened. I guess Campoop decided I was the one telling the truth because I'm still here. Or maybe they flipped a coin and I won. Or lost. Anyway, he's gone. I don't miss him. When I thought my mother was talking about him, I felt my heart stop for a second. I really didn't want to talk about him. Us. Whatever. Anyway, then I realized that she meant Sadie, and my heart started beating again. But then I went from being scared to being angry. I wanted to say, she's not just gone, she's dead! But I knew she was trying to make me feel better, so I just didn't say anything. I wasn't exactly looking forward to the weekly family frolic, what with everything that's been going on. Thankfully, my parents brought Amanda with them. I was really glad to see her. She was kind of a guarantee that I wouldn't just lose it. But even she was a little less Amanda-ish than usual. I think she thought she should be because of Sadie and everything. Cat Poop started out by reminding us all that I only have 9 more days here. As if I didn't know that. 5 weeks ago, 9 days in this place felt like might as well have been 1,000 years to me. Now it seems like nothing. The house has really changed since you've been to the, since you've been gone, my father said. I can't wait for you to see it. He had his hands in his lap, and he kept twirling his thumbs, which is what he does when he doesn't want to be doing whatever it is he's doing. I'm sure he wanted out of there as much as I did, and I kind of felt sorry for him. I guess it must be hard knowing you kid try to kill himself. Right, said my mother. She was being super chirpy, the way she is when she wants to pretend everything's fine. We put new carpeting in your bedroom. It's a beautiful color. What color would you say it is, Amanda? Amanda looked at her. Beige, she said. It's beige. Oh, I think it's more sand, my mother said. Isn't that what the salesman said it was called? Desert sand? Anyway, it looks wonderful with the paint. Amanda, what would you call that shade of blue? Blue, said Amanda, looking at me and rolling her eyes. I'd call it blue. I knew this was my mother's way of letting me know I won't have to look at any blood stains when I got back. It doesn't really matter if the stains are there or not. Not though. I'm still going to remember. But it's nice of her to think of it. Then Catpoop said he discussed with my parents the idea of me going to a different school so that I could have a fresh start. He wanted to know how I felt about that. I said it was a lot to think about and that I'd get back to them on it. I kind of liked the idea of going somewhere else, somewhere new. It would give me a chance to start over, to be anybody I want to be. But that's the thing. I don't want to be anybody. I want to be me. I don't know if that would be any easier than at a new school or not. I mean, yeah, I'm a little scared about the stories I'm sure going around. Probably by now someone has a website up about me. www.jefftrytokillhimself.com with pictures and a blog. And a part of me would be totally relieved not to have to walk into my own school and see everyone looking at my wrists. Seriously, how long can you get away with never wearing t-shirts? But would it really be any better than in a new place? Maybe at first. But sooner or later, someone would find out what happened to me. That's just how it is. Some kid will know someone who knows someone from my own school, and pretty soon the stories will start flying around. Then I'll walk into school one day and hear all of this whispering as I walk through the halls. That's what happened when Jenny Minigerman went away for a few months. Her sister told everyone Jenny was doing a semester as an exchange student in Australia, but it turned out she was pregnant and went somewhere to have the baby and give it up for adoption. By the time she came back, everyone knew what had happened. Someone thought it would be funny to cut out pictures of babies from magazines and paste them all over her locker. Jenny ended up dropping out, and now she works at a supermarket as a checkout girl. I try to be really nice to her when I get in her line, but she pretends she doesn't recognize anyone from school. It's probably better to just go back to my old school and deal with it. Amanda still goes there, and I don't want her to be the only one who gets teased because I can't face anyone. I know she could handle it, but she shouldn't have to. Maybe we could both go somewhere new. Or maybe I can convince my parents to move to France. No one in France cares if you try to kill yourself. In fact, I think they like you better because you're all tragic. This is all the stuff I was thinking while my mother was talking about how great it will be to have me back. Then I guess even Cat Poop got tired of hearing her talk, because all of a sudden he asked Amanda, "How do you feel about your brother coming home?" I was actually curious to hear what she had to say, and not just because it meant my mother would have to shut up for a minute. "I can't wait," Amanda said. "I'm tired of having to do the dishes by myself." I laughed inside. I knew she said that to be a smartass. She can be worse than I am when she tries. But she was totally giving everyone the serious face, so they didn't know whether to believe her or not. "Do you have anything you would like to ask Jeff?" Cat Poop asked her, trying again. "Since he's dealt with me for so long." "Hey, Lion Blade, how you doing tonight?" "I'm doing pretty well, thank you for asking. How are you doing tonight?" Since he's dealt with me for so long now, he probably knows Amanda operates the same way I do. I waited for him to start doing the staring thing with her. But Amanda didn't look at him. She looked at me. I could tell she was trying not to laugh. So I did. Look at that here in a moment. So I did my best to look really serious too. She waited a minute, just kind of biting her lip, and she was thinking about something deep. Then she said, "If you do it again, can I have your room?" She's being a smartass, guys. Don't worry about it. Well, yeah, she is being a smartass. Also doing good. It's good to hear. That is good to hear, though. "Amanda!" my mother said, shocked. My father stopped twirling his thumbs and looked like he wanted to die. Cat Poop got his pencil ready. "What?" Amanda said, acting all innocent. "I don't think Jeff appreciated that," said my father. "But I did. See, this was kind of an in-joke with us. When we first moved into our house, Amanda and I both wanted a bigger bedroom. She said she should have it because she's a girl and it has its own bedroom. I said I should have it because I'm older. I ended up tucking myself in the room and stayed there practically a whole day until my parents said I could have it. I was all ready to rub it in, but then I found out that Amanda had set me up. She knew I would fight for her for the room, and she only pretended to be upset about not getting it because what she really wanted was a new bike and horseback riding lessons, both of which my parents gave her when she boo-hooed about her whole life being totally unfair. She's good. Oh, what? Hello, I have to be a smart ass. Be quiet. Also, hello, how you doing tonight? I'm doing pretty well, but how are you doing tonight? I played along. "It's okay," I said in this calm voice. They all looked at me. I think they expected me to give some big speech about how I have no intention of ever trying it again. Instead, instead I said, instead I said, like it was really hard for me to get the words out, "You can totally have my room if I ever kill myself again." "Jeff!" my mother and father said at the same time. Then my mother looked at Cat Poop. "You see what we live with?" she said. "The two of them." "I think Amanda and Jeff understand each other quite well," said the doc before she could finish. When I looked at him, he pushed his glasses up. I thought he might be smiling a little, but he wiped his mouth with his hand, and when he brought it away, he looked like his old shrinky self. "Well, I wish we understood them," my mother said. Amanda looked at me again, and that's when I realized that what she thought of me was more important than what anybody else thought. Isn't that weird? And I can't tell you why it is. Maybe because I don't want her to be afraid of me. I think I couldn't handle it if the kids at school were afraid of me. Even my parents. But Amanda's different. I want her to know she can trust me. One day she might really need me for something, and I don't want her to be afraid to ask. The rest of the session was boring. Cat Poop talked a lot about transitioning from the therapeutic environment to the home environment and crap like that. Mostly I made faces at Amanda when no one was looking and tried to get her to crack up. She did once, but then she started coughing to cover it up. When it was all over, there was more hugging. When it came time for me and Amanda to hug, I held her really tight and whispered in her ear, "Next time I'm going to do it on your carpet." She had to pretend to cough again so my parents wouldn't hear us laughing. But I think she knew I was really telling her that she didn't have to worry. As they all left, I heard my mother say to her, "I think we should take you to Dr. Leach tomorrow. It sounds like you're coming down with something." Amanda turned and glared at me, and I just waved at her. "Would you mind staying a little longer today?" Cat Poop asked, as I was getting ready to go back to my room. "I thought we might talk some more." I knew that he knew that there was more to my story than what I'd already told him, and suddenly I was really, really tired. Not of talking to him, but of not talking to him. I was tired of all the games I'd been playing, and of holding back. Maybe realizing how much I wanted Amanda to believe that I was okay is what did it. Maybe it was Sadie being dead, or Rankin being gone. I don't really know, but I knew I was ready to talk. I sat down. "Okay," I said. "Where should I start?" "Where every good story starts," said Cat Poop. "At the beginning." And that is going to be it for part 4. Next time, on the final part of Suicide Notes, Jeff's days in the program are almost over. But who knows what's going to happen between day 39, or day 37 to day 45. It's going to be one wild ride. And plus, after that, I'll be reading the interview that the author had with the questions for the author, a note from the author, and a special If You Need to Talk page. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for me for tonight with this book. Hope you guys enjoyed my reading, even if I was reading things that were very much adult, especially in the first half of the book. Either way, it is 3 o'clock in the morning. I need to get to bed soon. So I'll see you guys later. I don't know when, but it will happen. Either way, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And if you... and until next time, this is Forrest Walpole, signing off.